Hi, good evening, everyone. You are the brave people unafraid of snowstorms, so I want to congratulate you tonight. And as the president of McDaniel, it's my privilege to welcome you to our SmartTALK, in a particularly momentous year in which we celebrate our 150th anniversary here at McDaniel. And through our program, we try to highlight the McDaniel brand of liberal arts education at work through the achievements of our amazing alumni. And many of these same alumni, they come back to campus, they connect with our students through the Center for Experience and Opportunity. They offer their expertise, their internships, and jobs, most important issue. And if you didn't get a chance to touch base with our CEO Director, Connie Scarlatta, at the back here on your way in, she's stationed by the door. She will tackle you on your way out and make sure that you've got a career. All right, so please stop by and find out about the amazing ways you can get involved and connected through the CEO, please. Tonight's SmartTALK takes on special meaning as we honor how far we've come as an institution and we look ahead to what we're going to be over the next 150 years. I think there's never been a more pressing need for liberally educated men and women than now. And we know that our personalized kind of curriculum at McDaniel provides students with the preparation and the mentoring to become what they dreamed they could be. Climb higher, see farther, our signs say on campus. And two of those climbers who saw afar are with us this evening. As first-year students in 1993, Shane Ireland and Quinn Salamandra could not have been more different. Shane was a preppy kid from Annapolis. He had some boat shoes on and no socks. Quinn was the Jersey boy with a sharp wit. Placed together as roommates, this wasn't the greatest of relationships, but by graduation in '97, they were best friends, sharing more similarities than differences. And those similarities included their ambition, their entrepreneurial spirit, their strong work ethic, and a dedication to relationships. And today, Shane and Quinn head Corporate Brokers, a staffing solutions company they founded in 2003 after achieving early career success but feeling dissatisfied with the lack of ownership in their jobs. Now Corporate Brokers has offices in 8 states throughout the Northeast and Florida. The business was recognized as one of America's fastest growing companies by Inc. magazine and employs 75 internal employees and a staff of 700 temporaries who are placed in businesses in 32 different states. As the company expanded, the pair sought to recruit like-minded innovators and problem solvers to join their leadership team, and so they instinctively turned to McDaniel alumni. And both Shane and Quinn say the collaborative spirit of the McDaniel community on the Hill translates into the culture at Corporate Brokers. Quote, "There's something about McDaniel that attracts entrepreneurs, the kinds of people who don't want to be a number in college or in life," Shane said. Adds Quinn, "We lack a big ego at Corporate Brokers, and that meshes well with McDaniel's culture." Both Shane and Quinn are members, I'm proud to say, of the President's Advisory Council, a group of highly successful McDaniel graduates that provide leadership, mentoring, and networking opportunities to students in our Encompass Distinction Entrepreneurship Program. Tonight, these staffing industry experts are going to share how their liberal arts education has fueled their careers and what distinguishes these grads in the marketplace. After each of them takes a few minutes to share personal stories, we're going to have a conversation, and it's going to be based on the questions that I've gathered from you in the audience. But please join me now in welcoming Shane and Quinn back to the Hill.
So we're going to kind of do a little dog and pony show here. Nice intimate environment. Quinn and I are going to tag team this because our stories are so similar. We figured to hear from both of us individually wouldn't be as good as him chiming in on and making fun of me as I'm up here talking about things. So I'll give you a little bit of background on me. I'm a graduate of the '97 class of McDaniel. I was a psychology major. I wrestled for about a year and a half, super active in the Greek life here. And Dr. Herb Smith was my academic advisor through those years. I'm a proud husband to another McDaniel grad and super proud father of a 13 and a 15-year-old. I live in Annapolis, Maryland, which is real close to my hometown in Anne Arundel County. And as you just heard, I'm the co-founder of Corporate Brokers. You
So
want
I'll
to
stand up, actually. So similar to Shane, obviously co-founder of Corporate Brokers. I'm from the great state of New Jersey. Anybody from New Jersey here? Jersey. All right. I live in Maryland now, so I've kind of adapted to crab cakes and all the good stuff Maryland has. But sociology major, 97 grad. I have a wonderful wife. I have 2 little kids, a little bit younger than Shane, 6 and 9. So I'm still in that crazy phase of life. If anybody has kids and thinking about kids, it's kind of a crazy phase. But yeah, this is a great place, guys, and it's been a great ride so far, and I'm really excited to tell you about it tonight.
Awesome, cool. A little bit about Corporate Brokers. We're a temporary and executive staffing firm. That means we do the bulk of what we do right now is temporary placement across a bunch of different industries, and we can answer those questions if you have them later. And we do a lot of, Quinn started recently a division where we do executive placement, which is that high-level permanent placement, more headhunting type staffing that your traditional staffing model. We have 7 offices up and down the East Coast, ranging from northern New Jersey to down to Tampa, Florida. We're headquartered in Annapolis, Maryland. We also have a small division that's growing in Baltimore as well. 75 employees right now, about 600 temporary employees or consultants. We do business in about 35 states, so I think it's grown by about 3 states since we gave the college our synopsis. And then we're a multi-year recipient of Inc.'s award, Inc. 500 award of one of the fastest 500 growing companies in the United States. So how did we get here? This is where it gets fun. So as you just heard, it's the fall of 1993. Prior to landing on campus for my first day, I had placed several calls to my new roommate over that summer in hopes of connecting over the phone with my new best friend. None were returned.
I'm going to interject real quick. This is when phones had a cord and were on a wall, so It's not like today where you have a cell phone, obviously.
Right, yeah. So it's the third and final day of student orientation. I'm not sure, is there still a multi-day student orientation? So third and final day, this is Sunday afternoon in Rouser Hall. No roommate. Classes begin the next day. So I think I have a single. If you've ever been on a Southwest flight and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the best flight ever, and because there's nobody sitting next to you, and in walks the very last passenger on the plane, banging their luggage everywhere, and they sit right next to you. That was kind of what I was going through. It all changes at about 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. So in walks my roommate Quinn and his frustrated, impatient parents. Let me properly set the scene. As was just told, I'm this somewhat shy, I like the idea of preppy kid. Quinn said dorky kid from Annapolis. And truly, I thought the only different style of shoes were different styles of boat shoes. My parents and I had arrived on Friday at the exact check-in time. My mom makes my bed for me. She stocks, the pantry full of enough food for me to be able to compete on Chopped, and they head out for the day. I always mention this because Quinn likes talking about this. They give me one of the things that we brought on the first day was a wonderful life-size poster that my girlfriend at the time had given me of she and I at the prom. And yes, I did hang that on the wall. Yeah. So this is total true story. We've got a lot of other ones. But so in walks Quinn and his parents, right? His dad takes a glance at the poster and laughs out loud. And then yells to his mom that they're going to be late for their dinner reservations back in Trenton, New Jersey. They leave Quinn with a duffel bag, handful of cash, and a case of Arizona iced tea. The truth is, and this is really true, and I bet you can relate to a lot of this story throughout your life. Quinn and I immediately didn't like each other. I certainly know that I kept looking for my buddies, for people that looked like my buddies back in Annapolis, Maryland. By November, I had applied to transfer to Virginia Tech, where a couple of my good friends were. And Quinn applied to Syracuse. And that was our main dialogue, is where are you applying and where am I applying? Sure enough, I think we both get waitlisted. And then just prior to the December break, both of our high school sweethearts break up with us within a couple days from one another. So here, Quinn and I bond over this novel idea of playing No Woman, No Cry on our outgoing voicemail message of our freshman dorm room. And by the end of that year, that was the beginning of our bonding, by the end of that year, we decided together to live on the fraternity floor of the fraternity that we ended up joining, the second floor of A&W. Today, Quinn is my business partner and closest friend. Our unique perspectives on life continue to be one of the guiding forces that drive our success. So why do I tell this story? And the older I get and the more experience I have, I continue to reflect on this concept. I think McDaniel knows what they're doing. There were two other kids that I went to high school with locally here in Anne Arundel County in Maryland that were on the same floor of that dorm room, but they chose not to put me with them. They paired a dorky Annapolitan up with this tough kid from Central Jersey. And I like I said, I think they know just what they're doing. We always ask ourselves, why do we have such success in going back to the well, which is McDaniel? You know, as a percentage of our population, 10% right at any given time is always are McDaniel grads. We've employed up to 10 McDaniel grads at a time, but as a percentage of it, I mean, this is a really small sample size to be able to continue to have success drawing from. And why can't we find another consistent well? So I don't have all the secret ingredients of how you've continued to build this great institution, but I think we constantly hit on a couple of them. First of all, as you mentioned, and as I've said before, it's about accountability. I think that this college attracts and fosters people that want to matter, that want to matter in life. People that attend McDaniel don't want to be a number. We as in me too, want to be held accountable. And I believe that McDaniel is comprised of amazing people who spend their life teaching others, who want to be taught, and then holding them accountable to being their best selves. That's a critical lesson in life. It's a critical way to lead. I think critical thinking skills is an understated skill set today, in that the people of this great institution are teaching and developing critical thinking skills on a consistent basis. One of the most important skills in business today is the ability to think critically in really complex environments and not necessarily apply one syllabus or one formula to complex business problems. This is a consistent skill set that we've realized McDaniel grads have. This is, again, an amazing thing. McDaniel is crafting emotionally intelligent people. And what I mean by that is people like me who may begin their adult life, 16, 17, 18 years old, with a very narrow perspective on what life means. Somehow, 4 years later, leave this place with a broader understanding of the world and the fact that diversity in background, thought, and perspective is the only way to lead a fulfilling life. And they're equipped with communication skills to compete and execute in any environment. Entrepreneurialism. At no point of your life is it more critical to learn about taking risk than your college years. You either associate taking risks, my experience anyway, has been that you either associate taking risks with really positive rewards or really critical failures. And I know that McDaniel fosters the idea of individuality and the desire to achieve one's full potential through daring to be one's best self. Finally, people care. The foundation of any great organization is in my opinion, is the cultivation of intimate, meaningful relationships. No organization embodies this philosophy more than McDaniel. Everyone is genuinely interested in others and their success. Professors are not only accessible, but at least in my experience, a guiding influence at your time here at McDaniel. And it's not just about academics. I don't know of any other organization or institution that more consistently cares about the community, the students, the faculty, and its alumni. And that's a powerful lesson to be learned, and frankly, a wonderful gift to be the recipient of. Wikipedia, let me talk about liberal arts for 2 seconds. Wikipedia says that liberal arts in a classical sense are those subjects or skills that were considered for a free person and citizen to know in order to take an active part in civic life. I think that's a pretty good description. The aim of these studies was to produce a virtuous, knowledgeable, and articulate person. I feel that I and most everybody we know that has graduated from McDaniel is definitely representative of the intention of this liberal arts education. Quinn and I, like many, didn't graduate with honors, and you won't find my name in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. But we are so thankful and lucky to have been surrounded by great people who continually, to this day, believe in us and in our potential greatness. Let me tell you the rest of the story in between. So something that Quinn and I always shared from the get-go was a strong vision for our professional lives, for our lives in general. And unfortunately, we had no plan, a non-existent plan. And that happens to so many people, I believe, that come to institutions like McDaniel, and McDaniel specifically. I remember in Anne Arundel County, there's a river off the Chesapeake Bay, and I had the fortune to be able to be on that river sometimes in small boats. And I would be on the river, and I'd look up at these amazing houses. And I would just know that I wanted to be there someday. I'd have no idea how to get there. There'd be times in my life that I'd want to go and knock on that door and say, how'd you get here? I'll do anything to make this happen for my life. So I had that great dream, again, without a plan. I also wanted to follow, there's another kind of part of my plan, I wanted to follow my father's footsteps as a psychologist. But my overzealous interest in the non-academic side of McDaniel College had other plans for me. True story, I remember the day I went to Dr. Hughes in the psychology department to get some guidance on how to go into psychology as a profession and go into grad school. And she told me quickly that she thought that I should pepper in, quote unquote, some business classes at the time to round me out a little bit. So it was a nice subtle hint there. But I was pretty clear on a couple of things. I knew that I needed to love my job. I had many influences, including my father, who insisted that life is a lot more fun when you love your job. I was willing to do whatever it took to achieve success. I've always known that I can outwork anybody, and that hustle can outwork talent any day of the week. And for Quinn and I, money was never the primary goal, but we knew success in the form of monetary compensations would at least give us options in life. So what do you do when you graduate McDaniel with a 2.8 GPA in psychology? You go and sell something. And so in actuality, McDaniel helped me land my first job and helped Quinn land his first job. It was an older fraternity brother of ours who had the beginnings of a successful career with a staffing company here based out of Baltimore, Maryland, Tech Systems. He was then this older fraternity brother of ours was living in New Jersey. He had a pager and a car allowance. So I knew he was destined for great success back in 1997. Quinn and I both got jobs with the company that he was working for, Aerotech or Tech Systems, and we both moved to New Jersey. I went on quickly to Manhattan and with Aerotech, and then was recruited in the pharmaceutical industry, where I enjoyed strong financial rewards and constant promotion through that experience. Quinn did the same. Enjoyed great financial rewards. We would talk as great friends do all the time, and he was getting promotions and I was getting promotions. We were making great money. And the one thing that we kept talking about was wanting to do something more with our lives. Like, is this it? Oh my gosh, we're 5 years out of college, and is this it? Am I going to be doing this grind forever? And so, that was that. The Quinn and I was 27, and like I said, we would dialogue pretty frequently at the time, and we decided to sit down at my dining room table with my wife's and his at the time.
Very new girlfriend that I drugged down to Shane's house, 3.5 hours away, and I think it was probably our third date. And I said, hey, we're going to do something really big, and you seem pretty nice, so let me tie in on this conversation. And literally that night, she still gets upset about it because Shane and I got on this, 3 or 4 hour conversation. We started to write things down and game plan our business. And the next thing I know, 4 or 5, 6 beers later, him and I literally grabbed another 6-pack of beer and went out and went on our first sales call that night. We went over to one of his neighbor's house who we kind of knew and we said, this is what we're doing. And we knew he was an IT manager at a big company. And before we even had a checking account, I left my new girlfriend at the time, who was now my wife, and we grabbed a 6-pack of beer and went on our first sales call. And that's how passionate we were about this thing, just over a 4 or 5 hour conversation that bled into one of our longest term clients now to date, 15 years later, still a very good client of ours. So that same fire that we had that night, it's just funny to think about. That was the initial gasoline on this little flame that just, is still going today. So it's been great.
Yeah, so we knew at the moment, we had to jump on this idea. As Quinn mentioned, we start selling that night. I had this career in pharmaceuticals. Quinn had continued a wonderful career in managed staffing. I knew that I wasn't going to have a career like they did in Breaking Bad, so I wasn't going to follow the pharmaceutical route. But that staffing is something we connected on. I knew I wanted to work with somebody on a Monday morning who inspired me and who I could see a future with. And that was real clear to me. So that night we came up with 3 simple goals. We have this original paper. Number 1, never write a resume again. That was a pretty simple goal. To build something huge. I know this is not a very sophisticated, remember we're 27 at the time, no offense to you 21-year-olds, but yeah. And to love Monday mornings. And I'll leave you with about 1, 2, 3, 4 messages that I've learned along the way. Number 1 is don't clean your room. I often tell this story for our company. If you ask Quinn or my wife, they will tell you that I have to work extremely hard to keep organized in my life. In college, nobody was watching, so that rule didn't apply, and my room was a constant mess. I am also a huge procrastinator. So when it came time to prepare for a test, guess what I did? The one thing I liked doing more than preparing for a test, which was cleaning my room. And that's the one time you could find my room real clean, when I had a big exam coming the next day. I would tell myself that I was doing something super productive. It wasn't like I was partying or messing around in the quad. I was cleaning my room. But my professors didn't care about my room. My grades were based on my ability to study and to convey a thorough understanding of the material that they had presented and taught. At McDaniel, I had many people who were invested in my success, and I didn't want to let those people down. That was a valuable lesson for me, because today I still, every once in a while, find myself cleaning my room. And I find a lot of other people spending way too much time in their life cleaning the room. I hate organizing email, but when it comes time for me to prepare these days for a big bank meeting, guess what you'll find me doing? I'll be organizing my email. This is about commitment and discipline. It seems to be the little choices in life that mean the most. I often ask, what are you doing when nobody's looking? To win in business, you must stay disciplined and consistent with the right tasks. Another one is don't wash the sweat off. And here's what I mean by that. Stay gritty. Embrace the grind. The whole struggle in life is what makes life fun. As for my life and most of my close friends, the rest of the time in life is just spent congratulating yourselves on the past triumphs over the struggle, or having anxiety about when the next struggle is going to come. So just stay in the struggle, get gritty. Be afraid, be really fearful of being smart. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Learning is an essential part of personal fulfillment. If you ever find that you're the smartest person that you know, or you're giving more answers than you're asking questions, be very, very scared. You've stopped evolving. You've stopped doing the things that got you here. And love Monday mornings. Weekends are fun, sometimes really fun. But when you enjoy Monday mornings, there will never be a Sunday night. Be selective about the people that you choose to share your career and your life with. Not just the most fun, but who are aligned with your personal mission and values. So that's all I had. That was it. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
So thank you for that very much. And so we're going to have a conversation now based upon some of the questions that you folks have come up with. And One of the first things I'd love to do is just explore the partnership aspect of the work more. So what are your separate titles in the company?
CEO. Yep, I'm the CEO.
CEO. So how did you figure out who's going to do what and who's going to have what title?
Well, I think, I'll jump in real quick. I think when we're in your small company, you do everything, right? So for the first 5 or 6 or 7 years as we were growing, I think we shared a lot of the same responsibility. The interesting thing was we were in different offices. So I was up in New Jersey. We started the company in 2 different locations. I was in New Jersey, Shane was in Maryland. A lot of conversations, a lot of traveling back and forth. But we ran our own call centers, basically. We ran our own profit centers. And through that, we had our own teams we were running all, under the same umbrella. But we had our own kind of worlds we were in. And then we'd come together on several times a day and then, several times a month in person, and we would talk big picture strategy. But at the end of the day, as the company grew and we started to hire exterior management, we brought folks in, we promoted folks in, we had to really, figure out who did what within the organization, because if not, what happens is it just goes to a committee and things don't get done as fast as they need to get done. So, I was involved very much in the operations, the infrastructure of the company. Shane was very much involved in the big picture thinking. Shane's a visionary in my mind, somebody who sees the big picture, has a long game. I'm a little more of a short game guy in a good way, out there really, taking care of the task at hand. But Shane was always, even from that one meeting at his kitchen, Shane was working on a business plan, and I was figuring out who to call. So it was a natural partnership in the sense of we weren't fighting for the same space all the time. We had different responsibilities early on, and as the company grew, we just really solidified those responsibilities.
Fair, yeah. I'd say we've always been incredibly honest with each other, and that's critical in life, and as well as we use a word internally called potential, which you can kind of get the idea of it. It's fulfilling your potential, right? And understanding, and this is a cool understanding in life, that we have different potentials. We want to do different things. We are great at different things. That's awesome. And we started to realize that together. We wanted to embrace what I was great at, and I was like, "You like doing that? That's awesome. I was just pretending to like doing that." And that's life. You surround yourself with people. I've always wanted to work on my strengths, and I always believe in working on people's strengths more than I believe on working on their weaknesses. I want to spend more time developing people's strengths and then allow them to compensate, them surrounding themselves with other people that make up for their weaknesses. And I think Quinn and I naturally found that over the years working together.
I think the philosophy we always talk about as well is from early on, we've always put the company ahead of everything else. So when I say that, we had a philosophy that if you put the company first and then your team members, your employees second, and yourself third, being Shane and I, that things will naturally fall into place. The organization will grow. And as I talk to the business owners and Shane talks to the folks, you see right away when somebody's very ego-driven or somebody's very much about this is mine or this is my place, or you walk into an office and you see the guy's picture all over the place. You can tell right away that potentially, that's not who we are. It's not who we were as people in general. It's not our personalities. So, that core philosophy of putting the company first and putting ourselves third, I think, has been, really instrumental in our growth.
So which came first? You knew you wanted to work together, or the business idea of let's do the staffing company? How did that evolve?
We knew we wanted to work together. You just know, right? You just know sometimes you just want to spend your professional life and your personal life with who you want to spend it with at the time. And that, for me, it's about inspiration. How am I inspired? And who am I inspired by? And one of the things that I'm consistently inspired by is when I hear we have a new employee starting, and it could be in any of our divisions, and I can't wait till that Monday morning. That's something that inspires me. And so something that drove me, and I think maybe drove Quinn in the beginning, is just getting to work with each other. We knew we'd figure the money part out. Love doing what we're doing on a Monday morning, add value, and get to work together. We knew we'd be successful.
Yeah. And we knew staffing. We knew that was a business that we originally got into. That was a business I was in. We just knew the business. We kind of knew the barriers of entry. We knew some of the pitfalls. We just knew that we could hit the ground running with something. And I don't think staffing was, there was nothing sexy about staffing at the time, but it was what we knew and where we kind of cut our teeth as young business people. So it was a natural, and it was a neat industry, and we knew the industry was growing, and there's some cool things happening in it, so it was a kind of a natural area for us to move into.
So you launched the business. Tell us about your early successes and failures.
I mean, we've had a lot of failures. We've had some successes too. I think, looking back, there were some successes. Just being able to survive was a success. I mean, one thing we did, which I think is some advice I'd give anybody thinking about starting a business, is we went all in. We were both doing really well in our careers. I mean, Shane had a wife and a young child and a child on the way, and I was in a little bit different of a situation. I was living with a roommate, and we were having a great time, and we were doing really well. Again, collectively doing well. But we went all in. We rented space without really having all that many customers to pay for it. We rented a small space. I remember Shane and I would talk, and we would put suits on and go to our offices, and nobody would be there. But we could get dressed up and go to work because that's what we had to do to make this seem real and make this seem like, it wasn't just, we weren't trying it, but this was it at 27 years old. This is going to happen. So some of the successes were survival. I mean, I can tell you when we hit $1 million in revenue, I can tell you, when we hit 500 and all these other great things, but some of the early little wins were probably some of the biggest successes.
Yeah. We grew like crazy from 2003. I don't know if I mentioned that. We're about 15 years in. We grew like crazy, 2003 till 2012. And granted, we had a lot of failures along that way, but we were in the struggle. Like I said a second ago, we were dialed into that struggle. We never lifted our head. And then in 2012, the world came crashing down on us. And we literally, if I had sat here telling you 2012, I didn't have struggles. We had a great story to tell. We had a lot of long hours, and I thought I had struggles. We had, without making the story too long, about 60% of our business was tied up in national accounts, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bristol Myers Squibb, some really, really big accounts that were really fun names. And our industry went through somewhat of a revolution in terms of how big clients like that handled us and priced us. And so there were extreme pricing pressures and we made the wrong decision. We didn't fight, we didn't get rid of the wrong clients, we kept everybody, and we made promises to too many people, and we began not loving our jobs, not loving Monday mornings, and guess what happened? So did our teammates, so did the people that work with us and for us, and we tried to keep together. We came back, we stabilized for about 2 or 3 years, we took our lumps and just said, let's just bunker down, let's hunker down in this thing and rally around each other and just figure out how to love Monday mornings again. And we've had tremendous 2012, 2013 were tough years for us. We were pretty stagnant in revenue growth, and then 14, 15 and beyond have been fantastic years. So
and at the time you make some bad decisions. Through a lot of growth, you determine we're going to go to new markets, or we're going to open up different offices, or we're going to make some promotions, maybe premature promotions, people that weren't ready to run offices. But when you're not losing, and you think you're going to continue to win. So those are years that were really big growth years, I think, for us as an organization. And knowing we can weather that storm of making some poor decisions, having to deal with the repercussions of those decisions, and come through it. Although tough, I think probably the most, some of the best years, some of the best learning years for us. You definitely learn from the mistakes you made. You learn from the failures. So we won't make those mistakes again, hopefully.
So what's the business model? How does the staffing industry work?
So the temp side of the business which is 90% of our revenue right now, is the temporary side of the business. That's where a client will come to us and they'll need either one person, and we're mostly on the professional side, mostly IT and high-level accounting and marketing-based positions. They'll come to us, they'll need a very specific skill set and or a team of very, very specially trained people to execute on a project. And for whatever reason, one way or another, they don't want permanent staff to fill that role. It could be budgetary reasons, it could be a temporary project. There's a multitude of reasons why they would want to hire temporary professionals. And we go and we find those individuals. We present those individuals sometimes in an exclusive relationship with the client. Other times we're having to compete with 3 or 4 other staffing firms on one position. When they get the job, we then employ them. They become a W-2 based employee of our organization. And we employ them on an hourly basis, and then we bill on an hourly basis to our clients. On the permanent side of the business, which Quinn is leading up like I said, a growing division for us, is we essentially, the business model is we charge a percentage of an annual basic fee for a very, very annual basic salary, of very, very specialized executive positions that we go out and hunt for.
Yep. And those can be contingent, which is a lot of times we'll work and the teams will work to fill something and fill a position, and if they don't fill it, they don't make any money. So they can put 2, 3, 4 weeks into a search, and if they don't fill it, they don't make any money. But there's also retained search and some other options in that business where you can hedge your bets a little bit and through relationships with the client have a different type of outcome. But our company really has about 5 different divisions right now that services everything from technical staffing to perm staffing. Recently, we acquired a company that does data projects, so data marts, data cubes, data warehouses. So we're kind of we're exploring outside of the traditional staffing world into more managed services as well.
And the competition is fierce, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Talk about your competitors.
So we were talking earlier. We're in a $150 billion industry. Just to give you an idea of our size, we're about a $50 million company. We have $150 billion. That's just in the United States. We've got 17,000 competitors in the U.S. in the staffing industry, but there are only 100 over $100 million in revenue. So the bulk of what that means is the bulk of the actual volume of our competitors are little guys. They're tiny. But the revenue is really at the top. The biggest staffing firm is, I would say, about $15 billion in the U.S. in revenue, to give you an idea of those 100. And then the smallest out of those top 100 is $100 million, like I said. So our competitive landscape, as we were talking about, we could be in our Tampa office. We don't have a consistent competitor to go after. We could be in our Tampa office in Florida, competing with a 2-person firm like Quinn and I started, or we could be competing against the largest firm in the nation.
So how do you find good talent?
Internally or temporary
for your
employees?
staffing, yeah.
Yeah, for consultants, you want to hit that? Or?
Yeah. So. We build great networks with candidates, obviously. We have an amazing database, and we're constantly talking to folks. Any one of the offices you walk into, you're going to see people communicating, whether it be email or phone or whatever it is, but building relationships, interviewing people, constantly bringing folks in. A lot of the resources we use are things you probably heard of: LinkedIn, Monster, Career Builder, Dice, and there's several other specialty sites. But the majority of how we find talent, whether if it's in our database, we have the network, great, but if not, we have to engage in a search outside. We're using one of those databases. And how it works, just to kind of peel the onion back a little bit, is when you guys put your resume out there, or if you're on LinkedIn, companies like us and potentially internal recruiters with companies will pay a good amount of money to get access to your contact information. So we literally can put a search in and go into LinkedIn and go in the back end and put a username and password in, and then be able to put a skill set search in. So if we're looking for a mechanical engineer, we could put a zip code radius and a skill set in, and then be able to find everybody who pops up that has their information on LinkedIn, or everybody who has their information on Career Builder we can contact, because your personal information's in there. And that's how we go out and reach people, And the majority of folks are really happy to talk to you because they do want to know what the market is. They want to understand what their place is in the market.
So what's your advice for recent graduates or students who are thinking about getting out in the job market in terms of getting found by people like you?
So network. At the core of it, and I'll say this over and over again until it bores you, but hiring is about human interaction and building meaningful relationships. That's what it's about. That's what companies are about. That's what life's about. That's what business is about. And my personal experience has been, you want to have a resume to be able to tell the story. Your resume should simply tell the story and help you facilitate a story, a true story about your life, a story about struggles, a story about progression, a story about evolution, you evolving. And you want to get that out there. I don't want to ever discourage you from you want to get that out there, because there is a small percentage of the population that would be hired through a job board, and so get it on the job boards. But most importantly, you want to make sure that on LinkedIn your stuff's updated right when you graduate college. That you go crazy, you get in that struggle, you get gritty about getting introduced to people. Don't worry about what you know, worry about who you are. Don't worry about what you've done, just continue to worry about who you are and the fact that you want to be introduced to people because you know you're great and you know you can add value. And get in front of as many people as you can would be my advice. Ask your parents, ask your relatives, ask anybody here, ask faculty to introduce you to people, especially people that know who you are and know where you add value. And ultimately what you're looking to do when you're trying to get a job is you're trying to solve a problem. That hiring manager has a problem. They sometimes don't know how to articulate that problem in a job description or maybe in an interview, but ultimately if you can solve their biggest pain, you're going to be hired.
Take it very serious. Every interview you go on, do the things that you may not, do. Like, again, when Shane and I graduated, I do feel like it's a little bit different, but make sure you got a great suit on or you look the part, and take the time and bring a resume and bring a padfolio and come prepared. Do some research before you go on that interview. Understand who you're meeting with. Understand the job you're interviewing for. We interview a lot of people, a lot of recent grads, and it's very apparent the ones who take the time to prepare for the interview versus just kind of winging it. We'll always lean on the ones that prepare and say that's the one we want to hire, no matter what the person does, leading up to it.
What's the fastest way not to get hired?
Don't show up to the interview.
That's a great
question. That's one I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that I'm just going to talk about us internally when we look to hire somebody. Lack of consistency, lack of honesty, and just transparency and being open, and trying to be somebody that you're trying to. We go through life and we play roles, right? We want to be somebody, or we take a role, and sometimes we're kids, sometimes we're sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers, uncles. And when you go and you're interviewing, the tendency sometimes, if you have an interview a lot, is to try to play a role and try to be the person that you think they want you to be. Don't do that. Be you. Just be the best version of you. Just be honest and transparent about your background and what brought you here to that day. Make sure that you practice with somebody that you're close with. I'll tell you a personal anecdote. One time, and I was so comfortable in an interview. I was interviewing for a director role early in my career in pharmaceuticals, and I was so comfortable in the interview. I knew I nailed it. I had the entire interview, and he's like, tell me something bad about yourself. Like, tell me. And I was like, I don't love closing. Never say that in a sales interview ever. And I just hadn't prepared myself, and I just hadn't thought through it. And so although I'm talking about being transparent, be calculated too. Yeah. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So much has changed in the hiring world. I mean, when I was graduated from college, I'm sure advice I might have been given was you don't ever want to take a temporary job because you want a full-time job that's on your resume or whatever. And now you look at the dramatic change in the job market. Can you talk a little bit about building your career through temporary placement as opposed to the more historical, traditional way? I go to this one company and I stay with them for 55 years.
It's almost, I'll jump in real quick. I mean, it's almost abnormal when I look at a resume and we see a resume where someone's worked for 10 or 12 or 15 years. I mean, you're so used to seeing people that are moving around, and they always have a story why they move. So year for year, here for 2 years, and it was always to make more money or get a different job or a promotion. So, when somebody sits at the same company, although it's refreshing at times to look at that and see, you just don't see it as much as you used to. And I think temporary employment it's relatively more accepted in the world. I mean, the jobs, early, when the industry kind of started, they weren't jobs where people would spend a lot of time. They would, usually fill a void real quick, and it'd be somebody was out on maternity leave perhaps, or somebody's on vacation or whatever. Now people use that for experience. They used it as a springboard for permanent employment. So a lot of our business, is it's called temp to perm. So companies will hire temporary employees and have the opportunity to convert them to full-time employees, after 6 months or 9 months. So that's really a big part of our business. So temporary staffing it's widely more accepted.
Yep. There's a fundamental, as you mentioned, there's a fundamental shift right now in employment, and it's called the gig economy, as in having not a gigabyte, but as in having a gig, like driving an Uber. There's freelancing, and now, and they expect this to just continue to grow. And that falls under the umbrella of temporary staffing. And so and that's a unique way to work if you think about it, not having an employer, but they say by year 2050, there may not be this style of employment, that we think of employment today. It's people doing jobs versus people being employed. And, if you start to think in that way, I'd still say right now, build yourself, first of all, never shy away from any opportunity. Just because it's temporary, never shy away from it. Never make a decision when you go in for an interview or when you get an opportunity in your life, never turn down an opportunity to have a discussion and build that meaningful relationship. Go in there, have the expectation you're going to crush the interview and that you're going to turn the job down if you don't love it. For whatever reason, you don't love it. Have the expectation you're going to crush it, you're going to get the offer, and you now have the power and the leverage to turn down an option. But I'd say temporary employment, the penetration rate in terms of the percentage of people that are employed on a temporary basis versus the people that are employed on a quote-unquote permanent basis, that number is increasing every year. And they're redefining what is temporary employment, and it's a lot bigger than they ever thought it was as a result of things like Uber.
I saw a study recently by Spherion asking baby boomers and millennials the same question. The question was, do you believe that changing jobs often is damaging to your career prospects? 18% of millennials said yes. 81% of baby boomers said yes.
Right.
Who's right?
Yeah.
That's a great question. And I always be thinking about the story. Where are you trying to go? Build the story. Where are you trying to go? Have some clarity around it. Where are you trying to go? Where do you want to be in 5 years from now? And what's my story going to look? Is this decision right now reactive? Or is it a great decision that ultimately is going to get me to where I want to go? And can I explain this decision?
With the amount of jobs people are doing and changing, it's as important how you leave a job as how you get the job, right? Because when people do make these kind of moves and they're moving around quite a bit, you want to make sure you're doing all the right things on your way out. So you're given enough time, you're given the proper amount of notice, you're completing your work to the best of your ability to do that. Because people will check, people will do references still, and they will check, and everybody seems to know somebody in a company these days. I mean, we have a lot of deals that always kind of run down to the wire, and then, hey, it happens to be a guy here who knows Jim, and Jim didn't leave that company really well on good terms. So, point being is definitely make sure on your way out, you treat the job with respect, you treat your company with respect, because people are moving around a lot.
So where do you guys want to be in 5 years? What's the game plan ahead?
That's a great question.
Yeah, do you want me to?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I write next to my desk, grow or die. That's real clarity for me. I'm either growing or I'm dying. And I'm definitely not going to be dying in 5 years. With that being said, our goal is to hit $500 million. That's a real aggressive goal of ours, and that means a lot of things. Like I said, it sounds financially based, but here's what that means. It means opportunity. It means stock growth for our employees. It means really special offices with really special leadership that we're developing right now. We project that in about late 2020s. So in 5 years, I would imagine we'll be a $120 million organization. Mm-hmm. I want 3 new leaders. It's all about the people in our organization, and it's all about the impact that we're having on the lives of the people that work for us, both on a temporary and permanent basis. And I just want to grow, and I want to get better at what we're doing. And I want to hit some of those strategic objectives so that we make lives better.
As you're growing and expanding, particularly when you open up in a new market, and you just opened up in Florida not too long ago, so you've got a lot of geographic distance there.
Yep.
How do you keep the culture of the organization and replicate it in these new environments?
That's a So I can jump in quick, and I'm
Great.
sure. So it's actually a really great question. Early on, we didn't have a great formula for that, and that was some of the struggles we had in some of the newer markets we were opening. So recently, in the last couple of markets we've opened, it's been about really incubating that talent locally in local markets, whether it be New Jersey or Annapolis or wherever, taking people that have been there for a while, that understand the culture, that have been with us, that we know will never quit on us, whether they're shareholders in the company, stockholders, or just amazing team members, and then really breaking a chunk of folks off there and moving them to a new market. So we did that in Florida. I think it was 6 people we moved down. That all they had were themselves down there. In essence, they knew they were there for a mission. They knew they were there to stand an office up, and then from there, the culture was pretty much was turnkey. It was really an open box culture. We just popped it up, and from there it just grew like wildfire. So we think for now that's a great strategy, and develop that talent in our local markets where we have established brand and a culture, and then from there use that to incubate new markets.
Yeah, that's great.
So there is no college major here, or actually anywhere that I know of, called sales.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one called staffing that's
Yes.
a major. Something.
Sociology is pretty close.
Sociology.
Which I was.
Well, talk about that, because I'm really interested. So as you look back at your college experience, and you look at particular courses or particular experiences outside of the classroom, which were some that you think really prepared you for what you're doing right now, maybe more than others?
Do you want to go?
I can go if you want to. So, I was a sociologist. I've 3 or 4 majors down the road, I landed on sociology. And that's the neat part about a liberal arts college and this education you're getting here. Really, you're allowed to develop underneath this umbrella of liberal arts and figure out who you are through the process. So I had, I believe it was Intro to Soc with Dr. Ashburn, I believe it was at the time, who I don't know if he's with us anymore, but it was a really great class. And I took a liking to Dr. Ashburn, I took a liking to the curriculum of the class, and that was kind of the rest is history. But I think, the opportunity that provided me was I didn't want to be a social worker. I knew that I feel like early on in my college career here, I was always I was working, I was helping, recruit people to help me do jobs here in the forum, setting chairs up, or working, trying to make some money working for companies here in Westminster who needed more people. So I feel like I was always in the recruiting business at some sort here in college. But I believe that sociology, understanding that background, understanding what to do after that, what can I do with a sociology degree, people skills, management I learned about, some criminal justice stuff. I just got recruited. I got recruited into staffing, and there's a lot of people and a lot of human interaction staffing that I think, I look back on my sociology major that I think was pretty instrumental.
Sure.
Yeah, I think for me, so many classes, my now father-in-law, Dr. Smith, was a huge influence in my life because he, what'd you say?
He's paying you later.
Oh, good. He knows he was. And the reality is because people listened to me and taught me how to listen, and I think sales in particular, I didn't get this for a while. It's really about listening and attempting to understand, having empathy, attempting to understand the individual's pain and what they're going through. And it's not unlike any class that you're talking about. You're learning. You must listen. You must have a great dialogue in order for both parties to learn, and not thinking at any given moment. And I feel like the great professors here allowed me to have a voice and allowed us to have a dialogue. It wasn't just a curriculum that you were just thrown at you and there was multiple choice tests and bam, bam, bam. It was a dialogue. Was I getting it? Did I agree with the information? Did I disagree with the information? And I could have an opinion. And then ultimately, that is sales. It's a dialogue. I may disagree with the customer in the direction that they have, and I have the confidence to tell them that. I have the belief that, and I think great salespeople ultimately learn that skill set, that boy, you can actually interject your opinion right now. And that's the best people, that's the best salespeople, that's the best teachers, the people that are able to shape the minds and kind of have this ongoing dialogue. So I think it was all around us. Obviously, our fraternity experience and some of the more personal experiences that we had certainly shaped our ability to sell. Yeah.
I think it's really worth bracketing a little story right here, if you don't mind, Shane, though,
Yep.
because I tell the story often when I particularly talking to prospective families, the thing about McDaniel is your professors aren't often just in your life for 4 years, they're in your life for 40. You've got a really interesting story about a professor entering your life. Can you take just like 2 minutes to tell this story? Because I think the audience would love this story.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, this was my whole experience at McDaniel, and I don't necessarily advise that it goes this far. A little too close, but so Dr. Smith and I were very close. The truth is, I just abbreviated this early on. He was kind of my adopted advisor. I don't even know if you know that. I didn't declare a major for a long time, and I really.
I almost thought you were political science.
I was not.
You
Yeah.
went under that guy.
I know. Yeah. So and we got along real well, and I had so much respect for him and how he treated me and how he treated his class, and frankly his belief in me. And he picked up on a skill set of mine, which was that I was a good young writer, not good at anything else, but I could write, and therefore, he really inspired me to be a better writer, and I wanted to be a better writer for him because early on he complimented me, and so we developed a relationship, and fast forward 4 years later, and me continuing to take a lot of his classes, I invited him to my college graduation party in Annapolis, Maryland, professor. Right? Who gets to do that? Nobody from University of Maryland, nobody. And so he comes. And at the time, my now wife, my then girlfriend's mom was there who had been, several years ago, had separated from her husband. And so Herb and Dr. Smith and my then girlfriend's mom meet. And started a relationship. He called me for her number, by the way. And so it's on camera too. So then this is great.
This does not go on the extra credit reports.
Yeah, right. So the other day, so he came down the other day, and so they get married in 1999. They got married 2.5 months after Stacy and I got married. And so the other day he's down in my house, and we're talking on a Saturday morning, I think it was, and I asked him, I'm like, I've been married for 2.5 months longer than you. I'm like, do you want any advice? Like, I can tell you what's going to happen in the next 2.5 months. Like, yeah. So he said no. Yeah.
It's a marvelous story, though,
Yeah.
I think, about the tremendous culture that develops here. You both have been involved with us as we've been developing our entrepreneurship program, too, and I'd love it if you could take a minute to talk about the interrelationship between liberal arts and entrepreneurship as you see it evolving, too.
Yeah, I think liberal arts students in general are great risk takers. I mean, it's been neat to be part of that group and to meet some of the students there and see these fresh ideas and know that these people are potentially going to change the world one day. It's all about taking risks, though. Being an entrepreneur, being part of that group. It's about taking risks and getting out of your comfort zone. And it's one thing Shane and I, for many reasons, I think it's probably the biggest thing we ever did was take a huge risk. Shane much more than I did because Shane was married with one kid on the way. So for him to quit his job and take a leap of faith, which we called it back then, that takes a lot to do. And have your wife, your significant other, on board with that decision when you have a mortgage and car payments and all these crazy things, it's definitely something that's abnormal. So it's great being involved with those young kids here. I call them young kids now. It doesn't seem like it's been 25 years or close to 25 years, but it goes by quick. So take my advice to them if they were here would be take a risk. If you guys are thinking about entrepreneurship, take a risk. Do it while you're young. Do it when you have nothing to lose in a way, but also go all in with it. Don't quit and don't give up. Because you need grit. It's sometimes a very long road. I think I'll stop after this, but some of the theory now around, I look at business, I look at what's happening with Facebook and these tech companies and these 23-year-old CEOs that are $1 billion, have billion-dollar companies. That's very few and far between. It takes 20 years. I do believe it takes 20 years, and that's what my father told me a long time ago, is if you're going to do this, buckle up for 20 years because it's not going to happen overnight. You're going to take your lumps. And 15 years into that, I'm seeing that it's going to take 20 years to get this thing where we wanted to get it. So, but yeah, it's definitely nice to be part of an organization that kind of fosters that culture and has programs like that, it's not just graduate and go to law school, graduate, be a doctor, graduate, be an English teacher, but let's talk about entrepreneurship. Let's talk about growing companies. That's really exciting.
Well, I think it takes great risks to take someone on their third date to your business planning session as well. So
I still hear about it every once in a while, but
I'm delighted that you both took this risk, and it's a fantastic company that you've created. We're extraordinarily proud of what you've achieved and deeply appreciate how you've come back here and you've given back to our students and given back to us tonight. So in just a couple of minutes here, we're going to pull this door back here and invite all of you to join us back here. We've got something to drink and some cheese and cookies, and meet these guys and ask them your direct questions. But meanwhile, I know you guys have this thing called Western Maryland degrees, and I also want to say I believe this is the first SmartTALK I've ever gotten through the entire SmartTALK, and no one said Western Maryland. So I really want to thank you for that. But how about a McDaniel diploma to hang on your wall to go with that? So thank you both. Give us a round of applause, please.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, thank you.
thank you so much.
That was really awesome. Yeah, thank you. Cool. All right, buddy.